Saturday Night Live, having a little fun there with what has been a recurring theme infighting in the Trump administration. This now day 87 of the Trump presidency, and staffing issues have been an issue each and every one of those days. In a moment, the seemingly constant bickering among top aides like Steve Bannon and Jared Kushner, the aides the president has hired. But just as big an issue is the still glacial pace of filling important administration's positions. Let's take a look at this. These are the jobs in the government. If you look down here, let's see who's been nominated. You see the cabinet secretaries come in, confirmed. You get the green around them here. Cabinet level, pretty good progress. I'll show you some numbers in a minute, but look down here. Look at all these jobs in the government. See all these jobs in the government? Well, they are still unfilled. Let's take a look at the numbers. Of the cabinet level positions, 19 confirmed, 3 still awaiting confirmation. The broader job of filling the undersecretaries, the assistant secretaries, the day-to-day people who run the government, 508 open positions, 21 awaiting confirmation in the Senate. 3 of these jobs have been confirmed. Of this 508, the president says, why won't the Senate confirm them? Of the 508, he's actually named people for 33 of the positions, but they haven't sent the paperwork up to the Senate yet. They can't act on it. So the problem is the administration naming people, doing the paperwork, sending it up to the Senate. The president, though, has a different view.
I am waiting right now for so many people.
You're understaffed.
Hundreds and hundreds of people. And then they'll say, why isn't Trump doing this faster? You can't do it faster because they're obstructing. They're obstructionists. So I have people, hundreds of people, that we're trying to get through. I mean, you see the backlog. We can't get them through.
That would be not true. That would be not true. The fact checker sometimes is a gray area. That is not true. They simply haven't named the people. Now, when they name the people, are the Democrats stalling on a lot of them? Sure they are. But there's not a lot of people to stall on right now because this administration has been so slow to do its basic job.
And part of the problem is that Trump wants to be involved in a lot of the decision-making processes for the nominations you saw, I mean, that visual was so striking. There are so many jobs that need to be filled. The idea that the president of the United States would need to have sign-off for each one, I think is very telling about how he runs his administration. There isn't a general message sent to agencies about the type of person that they would want to have, the kind of ideology that they would want to have a person have for these jobs. So in a way, they get frozen until Trump signs off on an actual name. It's just stunning.
And there has been this sort of ideological purity test put in place early in this administration that have blocked some people who would otherwise be very qualified from being nominated to these positions. And you have to wonder whether they're giving some second thought to whether they can continue with that, because you cannot fill 500 and some positions by ensuring that every single human being who goes into the government has never said a cross word about the president. That's a really hard test to have, and it's contributed to this problem that we're seeing.
And with so many vacancies, it adds pressure and stress on those who are hired. With so many vacancies in the agencies, it adds pressure and stress on the White House, which has to make a lot of these decisions. So Saturday Night Live making fun of something that's in the news just about every day, infighting on the president's senior staff. I want you to listen here. Roger Stone, who's a agitator, shall we say, a friend of the president and a Republican agitator. I'm being polite. He'll take that kindly. And Chris Christie, who ran initially the Trump transition, and then they booted him out and essentially flushed all the work he had done. He had done all the way. He can agitate on occasion. Here's their take on Steve Bannon, who, of course, was the architect of America First, who came in with the president, who early on was viewed as the rising force and the strongest force in the Trump White House. Now he seems to be on the outs.
I think Steve made an error by not spending any of his political capital to bring other Trumpites and non-globalists into the White House circle. Therefore, now he's alone and he's surrounded.
I know Steve. Steve's a very bright guy. I got to work with him during the campaign. I think he was a big help to the president during the campaign, and everything that I saw him was involved in. But staff are there to serve the principal.
I think that was translating, don't criticize the son-in-law. But this, I mean, this is great drama. It's great theater. It gives us things to talk about here. But it matters in terms of the administration of what are we going to do in Syria? What are we going to do on tax reform? When are we coming back on health care?
More than that, what kind of president is he going to be? I mean, is he going to govern as a sort of Trumpist-type nationalist figure who Steve Bannon would like to see reshape American politics and the GOP? Or is he going to govern basically as a Bloomberg-style Republican who is friendly on Wall Street, wants to cut taxes, but otherwise is kind of socially moderate or apathetic? and is very pragmatic abroad. So it's not just kind of backstage fun Washington drama. It has huge consequences in terms of what kind of president this is going to be. But in some cases, John, it's being made for him. The choice is being made for him. You showed that long list of folks not being appointed. Eventually, they're going to have to name folks to those jobs. And what they're going to do is they're going to name conventional free market conservatives because that's who's available. There is no Trumpist personnel cabinet available. And that's why I think he's going to evolve into a more conventional president, because eventually everybody around him and all these agencies is going to reflect a more generic brand of pre-Trump era conservative politics.
And that's
Especially if
already
Bannon
happened.
gets pushed aside, which seems to be a possibility at this point. Striking last week that on 2 occasions the president would not give support to
He's a good guy,
top
but
advisor, suggesting he barely even knew the guy
Guy who works for me.
Guy who works for me.
This is the thing about Trump, though. I think this is going to
Like
be
he's a damn
fascinating.
driver.
it doesn't.
Gary Cohn.
Roller coasters go up and down.
They do.
Yes.
Gary Cohn now, who's a Goldman Sachs executive, who's now in the White House doing economic policy, but has a pretty wide portfolio, is now getting a lot of attention. He's getting newspaper profiles written about him. He's on television a lot. That is been the death knell for a lot of these advisors when they start getting kind of too big for the president.
You mean when time